What's up, guys? This is Agent What If, and I am back again with another video. This is what if Deku had a half heat vision and half ice breath quirk. Funnily enough, it doesn't actually say that, which now that I think about it makes me want to restart, but I'm not. So yeah, this is the video. Sorry, I've been gone for like 3+ months, but yeah, I'm gonna try to get back on schedule finally for the actual, like 15th time. But I'm gonna try. So with that, let's get into our story. We start off, as most of our stories do, with Izuku being born. Unlike any other baby, Izuku looks astonishingly like his mother. He has flowing bright green hair, and not the dark green hair he has, and it's not curly, it's very straight. That's the only difference. A few years go by, and Izuku develops a personality, very supportive, very stable. He's a very conscious boy, an observative boy, very secluded and introverted, very very mature for his age. But he's still a 3-year-old, so he still wants to do things like play and have fun. So of course he does. He doesn't encounter many troubles during his 3-year-old days. He makes a friend out of Bakugo, not because they have similar quirks or because they're strong, but simply because Izuku's own personality just matches well with Bakugo's personality. Izuku is perceptive enough to know that Bakugo isn't as bad as he attempts to make himself seem, and Bakugo is understanding enough of Izuku's personality to not say anything when Izuku doesn't do anything. So he basically involves Izuku into stuff because he knows Izuku won't actually say whether or not he wants to join something. He has to be forced into it, or he won't say he wants to go. So they basically have a give and take kind of relationship, and it works out pretty well because their friendship allows them to cover each other's weaknesses. Now, a couple months pass by, and students around start getting their quirk. Bakugo and Izuku haven't gotten their quirks yet, but everyone's anticipating their quirk since Izuku is 10th most popular in the class, and Bakugo is first. So everyone wants to know what their quirks will be. A few days later, Bakugo comes over to Izuku and simply asks him the question of did he get his quirk yet, because he got his. He then excitedly starts spinning around, shooting out explosions as much as humanly possible before he gets tired. Izuku then says, "No, I don't have a quirk yet. At least I don't think I will." Bakugo then tells him to let him know when he has his, and he'll be back to find him when that day comes. A couple days pass, about a week, and Izuku wakes up one day, and he hears banging on his door, and his door opens, but very harshly. This door has to actually be broken, and his mother comes tumbling in and goes over to him and hugs him. But then she immediately backtracks, and Izuku doesn't know what's going on, and he looks around. His room is frozen, and his ceiling has holes in it. Izuku doesn't know what's going on, and he attempts to look towards his mother, but then she tells him to wait and that she'll call the doctor. The doctor has to come from his house all the way. The doctor has to go from his office to Izuku's home in order to come see him, and he brought some heroes with quirks that nullify other quirks and protection barrier. Just imagine some random hero with the ability to make a barrier and Aizawa coming along. This is how he first meets Aizawa. So the doctor comes in very cautiously and heat-proof in a purely extreme temperature suit, so it's immune to the extremes of heat and cold. And Aizawa also comes along, as well as the barrier hero, who pretty much just protects Inko. Aizawa neutralizes his quirk, and the doctor sits down on the bed and starts asking Izuku how's he feeling. Izuku says he's feeling fine. The doctor says good, so that means your quirk is perfectly allocated to your body. You don't have any of those nasty things that come with quirks sometimes, like having to have another system to cool yourself down. He even makes a joke at Aizawa, pointing at him, saying, "See, this guy over here has to keep his eyes open, so he all the time has to use eye droplets. Doesn't he look so tired?" Aizawa then asks what he's doing here, since he has to actually go do things. The doctor then says, "Hold your horses. I'm getting started. I'll be finished soon." About an hour passes of tests with Aizawa flicking his powers on and off to show the quirk. The doctor eventually comes to the conclusion that Izuku has a quirk that allows him to emit both ice and fire, but only from specific body parts. And his heat vision really isn't even heat. It's more of a plasma, but which is hot, but not really heat within itself, more a gaseous state. But long story short, it's very, very powerful. The doctor gets interested because it's about one of the top 10 quirks he's ever seen. The only problem is its limited range. He can't do any of these amazing things on any other part of his body besides those. So the doctor just prescribes him to get some rest and take deep breaths. Whenever he feels a kind of feeling or a tug, to take a deep breath and to make sure to wear these sunglasses, which the doctor hands Zuku, and Zuku has to wear shades now. So yeah, that's why Zuku wears shades. Think of the ruby glasses that Cyclops has to wear all the time, just for the time being till he learns to control his power. Years go by, and as the years go by, Zuku grows out his hair even more to the point where he has this ponytail now. His slick green hair makes him quite the charmer for all of the girls in his class, and the fact that he's been taking care of himself with physical activities like running track and also doing wrestling and stuff has kept him in pretty good shape. His friendship with Bakugo has flourished and hasn't actually deteriorated any even over the years. Bakugo in this series doesn't actually envy Izuku, and that's mostly because he has a better power than Izuku. Now that sounds weird, but if you think about it, Izuku's power has absolutely no defensive capabilities at all. Bakugo's power has attack capabilities and maneuverability capabilities. Izuku's doesn't, so he's just an assault hero, but not much else, which is why in their fights, Izuku tends to lose. Izuku tries to supplement this with defensive martial arts, like anything he can get his hands on, but it's just not enough to close the speed gap. Because at this point, Bakugo and him have been training since they were around 10, and right now they're like 15. So Bakugo is much more agile and faster than Izuku. While Izuku has more flat strength than Bakugo, he just can't compete with him in speed. He has been losing as of recent because of it. They both go to school after a training session, and on the way walking, Izuku asks Bakugo a question. Bakugo responds with a typical "what do you want, nerd?" and Izuku just asks him a question. If he could be a hero, what will he be called? Bakugo begins to get arrogant and starts to say something, then he stops. Then he starts sweating, then sweating really heavily, and then he puts his hands on his temples and starts making an angry face and starts cursing that he can't think of a good name. Izuku then says, while scratching his chin, he came up with the same problem. He doesn't know what he would be called, and if he has a bad name, he can't be a good hero. He then starts pointing out how all of the best heroes have good names, like Eraserhead, like All Might. These people have cool names, catchy names that people will remember. Izuku then quotes that with a sweat drop and a sigh that he doesn't want to just be heat vision guy. He says that that'd be lame and that Bakugo would just be explosion dude. Bakugo gets upset that he's a dude instead of a guy in his name, and then he starts to argue. Izuku just walks away and goes to his class while running away from Bakugo. They make it into class to catch the back end of a lesson, and their teacher pretends to scold them, but they actually have the best grades in all the class and are ahead of their class by 2 years, so they really don't need to be in class, which is why they're allowed to be late. They also are star athletes, so pretty much they're celebrities at their school. So yeah, they don't really get in trouble a whole lot. They sit down while Bakugo puts his feet on the desk and Izuku kicks his feet off the desk. They start a minor argument while the teacher just continues talking like they're not there. Alright, class. I was thinking of giving you guys some kind of assignment that would test you on your aptitude for certain jobs. But let's be honest, in this modern day and age with superpowers, most of you young kids probably want to be superheroes, right? And then immediately, everyone starts flashing their quirks. The teacher gives a genuine smile as he notices all of the students he's been teaching for so long have a genuine passion about something, which isn't common these days in his profession. He then tells everyone to calm down, waving his hands downward. Everyone deactivates their quirks. He then gets serious. You guys understand that being a hero is no joke. You have to train, you have to use your quirk effectively, and most important, you have to protect people. The best heroes are the ones that actually save people. Do not become fame and money hungry like some heroes. You have to be better than that. I don't want to look back on you guys and notice that you've become vain individuals, okay? They all say yes, sensei, even including Bakugo and Izuku, and then the teacher starts laughing again, saying, huh, so much serious stuff. I don't like not smiling. So, let's just get her past the boring stuff and get on with it. So, since this is the last lesson of the class, Izuku and Bakugo, since you decided to kindly skip out on my class, how about you guys tell me where you want to go for being heroes? Bakugo cuts off Izuku with trying to speak, but Izuku freezes the bottom part of Bakugo's face, meaning he can't talk. Izuku then clears his throat and says, I would like to go to UA. And everyone's immediately shocked, but not because they don't think he can do it, but they're shocked because he just completely pretended like he didn't freeze a person's mouth shut. And like Bakugo has an entire block of ice all around his face and his lower half, and he just doesn't acknowledge it. The teacher then smiles, saying, you're definitely aiming high, but that's what you're supposed to do. If you aim high, if you aim for the stars, even if you fall, you'll still land on the clouds. That's an American expression I heard. I'm not sure if it's true though, so you'll have to test it for me. And then he laughs, and everyone says, how corny is that, with a sweat drop. Then the teacher falls over comically, then gets up, clearing his throat, saying, Bakugo, where would you like to go to school? Bakugo still can't get it off, and Izuku then just basically says for him that he wants to go to UA. The teacher then sweat drops and says, Izuku, could you please? And then Izuku takes off his shades and melts the ice. Bakugo starts cursing all types of obscenities, and everyone wishes they had closed the windows and the classroom doors, but they didn't, so yeah, it's out now. Bakugo then gets up, putting his foot on his seat, proclaiming that he will be the best hero, the number one hero, and Izuku will be his sidekick, the strongest of all heroes except him, but still his sidekick. Izuku then looks at him with a weird look, saying, why would I be your sidekick? Then Bakugo says, because I'm better than you. Izuku then gets upset with him, but not really. He blows him off, and Bakugo gets upset. The teacher then sweat drops again and just says, you know what, and the bell rings, cutting him off, and he says, I guess I don't even need to say it. Make sure to do your homework and go to chapter 12. Even if this is the last test and the last grade of the school year, that doesn't mean you get to slack off. I want to see you all on Monday. Everyone says hi except for Izuku and Bakugo, who get pulled aside after class. You guys have to actually come to school. I know you don't have to, but you still do. It just looks bad. They then both nod, completely intending to not actually follow his directions, and the teacher even says so, and they don't even bother to lie to him. They straight up say, no, we're not going to come to school. You do understand that, right? The teacher sweat drops, saying, you guys don't consider me a teacher, do you? They both shake their head no, then crack a smile and run off. The teacher sighs and walks back into his room. Izuku and Bakugo are racing home because coincidentally they live right across the street from each other, which is very not good for the neighbors, who have to hear Bakugo screaming and Izuku trying to scream to get him to calm down. Everyone understands who they are and how well they do in school, but that doesn't mean they like them. Long story short, the 10 months of training go by for the preparation to UA. They both get in with flying colors, of course, and are allowed to go and participate in the examinations because they qualify. Once they arrive at the gates, everyone is watching them, and everyone immediately notices that Izuku has on shades, even though he doesn't need them. Sure, the sun's out, but the sun's at his back, and he's been walking that way the whole time, so why does he need shades? But then just people decide not to question it, since maybe it's a fashion choice. Izuku continues walking and sees someone who's about to fall over, and then he tells the girl that she's about to fall, and she turns around to say, well, thanks, that was gonna help so much, and then she realizes she's not falling anymore because she got distracted, so now she's standing perfectly fine. Izuku then says, you're welcome, and keeps walking. She then is flabbergasted, stuttering, saying, how did he, what just happened? Everyone's kind of shocked at how he pretty much made her fix her own problem by just speaking to her. Bakugo then stomps up the stairs and tells her not to trip so much. And he opens the door by kicking it open, of course, and they walk into the room. Now, I'm going to skip all of the other parts of the exam except the robot exam because there's really no reason to have it. We already established that they're pretty smart enough to get into this school, of course, and everything else they'd probably be able to ace anyway with just their innate ability and teamwork. So we don't really need to go over it. So we'll go over to the exam on the robots. Before President Mike tells them to go, there's a conversation being had between Aizawa and President Mike. President Mike is thinking to himself how cool this new batch of newbies is, especially those two. They seem to be very talented, but not as talented as that one. And then Aizawa states that that's the number 2 hero's son. President Mike then says he doesn't care, he still likes the other two better. Aizawa then says as a teacher he can't pick favorites, and then President Mike says, who said I pick favorites? You're lying to yourself, to the world, and to the universe. Therefore, you are not rock and roll. Aizawa does not understand what exactly that meant, so he just leaves it alone as President Mike tells the students to go in his fashion. Everyone begins to run off, and Izuku's just jogging off while Bakugo tries to take to the skies and start blowing up things. Immediately, Izuku takes off his shades, puts them into his shirt, and then immediately starts letting loose. He vaporizes everything in front of him in a 5-foot radius, blowing a clean hole and cleaning the street all the way down to the end. Everyone is shocked because that's an astonishing amount of power for just a regular quirk. Izuku's fighting style tends to consist of him using his heat vision offensively and his ice breath defensively, trying his best to try and mold his ice into a useful form, like creating a mist of ice by breathing out, and then freezing his own normal breath with his ice breath activated. So, things like that. But his defense is still pretty lacking and too slow. So he gets hit a couple times in his trying to do that. Todoroki slides past him and then spins around and asks if he's one of them too. Izuku has no idea what he's talking about, but then that's when they see the giant robot that's coming. Izuku then notices that Bakugo's on top of a building sitting waiting, and Izuku wonders if he could take the robot down in one shot. Todoroki then says he'll talk to him later because he needs to figure out if he's one of them. Izuku says verbally he's confused about what he means. Todoroki gets upset and slides away like the emo he is. Izuku then stands in a very firm stance in a good position and then takes a deep breath and tries his best to shoot out the biggest lasers he can. And he manages to blow off one arm, but he missed because he turned his head when he heard Bakugo laugh at how he looked, so he missed. With that, he begins to run for his very existence, which he manages to do. The test ends. Izuku places 5th, Bakugo places 6th, and Todoroki is at 4th. So, yeah, that's the end of the first episode. If you guys enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you want to see more. And also, if you guys want to see a part 2, let me know in the comments below, or just let me know with the views. As I like to say sometimes, tell your mama, your girlfriend, and your grandma, because they all need to know about this. So, yeah, without any further ado, peace.